Let us continue boron family. In boron family, chemical properties of diboron continuation. Diboron reacts with ammonia at low temperature to give the complex B2H6 plus ammonia at a low temperature to give the complex. The complex is BH2 NH3 twice plus cationic complex. Anionic complex is BH4 minus. Then this B2H6 dot 2NH3. This complex we can write like this also. B2H6 dot 2NH3 also we can write. This complex we can write like this. This at 200 degrees Celsius. This at 200 degrees Celsius gives borosol B3N3H6. Borosol and hydrogen gas. Now we have to balance this equation. Here nitrogen is -3. Hydrogen is +1. Here also nitrogen is -3. Hydrogen is +1. So in the borosol we can write like this: NH, BH, NH, BH, NH, then BH. Then we will give formal charges nitrogen plus boron negative. So here if you see, this hydrogen is having +1 oxidation state, nitrogen is having -3 oxidation state. So what is there here? Same thing is there here. So how many nitrogens are there here? That many nitrogens present here. How many hydrogens present here? How many hydrogens present here? That is a this we will balance. This we have balanced. So how many hydrogens present? You see that in that here how many nitrogens means here how many hydrogens? Nitrogen is a 6 nitrogen that is having hydrogen. That 6 hydrogens having +1. 6 nitrogens having 6 hydrogens that is having +1 in that. Then boron is -3 here. Here also boron is -3. Boron is -3. And boron is a +3. Boron is +3. Hydrogen is -1 for boron. Boron hydrogen is -1. Here also boron hydrogen is -1. So how many boron present? You see that 6 boron. So 6 hydrogens present like this. So here 6 boron, 6 hydrogens present like this. Sorry. Now we will see remaining hydrogens. We will see. Okay. Here 6 hydrogens, 6 borons, 6 borons, 6 hydrogens present like this. Here we will see 3 6 are 18. Out of 18 hydrogens, 6 acids. So remaining 12 H minus is there. H minus 1 is there. Here we will see. Here 3 2s are 6, 6 3s are 18. Out of 18, 6 are acids. Remaining 12 are like this. Okay. So now what happens means this is converting into zero oxidation state. This is converting into zero oxidation state. It is undergoing reduction, it is undergoing oxidation. Therefore 12H2. 12H2 we are seeing. Okay. So this complex on heating to 200 degrees Celsius gives a borosol. This borosol, another name is borosine. This borosol is having benzene like structure, therefore we can say inorganic benzene. This borosol is a volatile compound. Okay. Next we will go for boron trihalides. Now we will take boron trihalides. We will take boron trihalides. What are the boron trihalides possible? That we will see. Boron trihalides BF3, BCl3, BBr3, Be3. like this is there. Next, the boron trihalides coming under Lewis acid or Lewis base, which one that we will see. Now we will take boron trihalide BX3. BX3 we have taken like this. Boron comes under group number 3A. Therefore, this valence shell contains 3 electrons. So it has these 3 electrons have bonded with the halogens. So 3 bonds. Boron is surrounded by 3 bonds. 3 bonds in the sense 6 electrons present in the valence shell. Therefore, it is electron deficient. So it can act as Lewis acid. It can accept electron pair. It is Lewis acid. Therefore, it can accept electron pair, we can say. So these are Lewis acids, we can say. Now BF3 will take. BF3 we have written like this, and BCl3 will take like this. BCl3 will take. Now it is Lewis acid, it is also Lewis acid. What about acidic strength that you will see? The experimental analysis says that the acidic strength increases like this. Acidic strength increases like this. Experiment says that acidic strength increases like this. Can we explain this one using electronegativity of this halogen that we will see? Electronegativity of fluorine is 4. Electronegativity of boron is 2. Electronegativity of chlorine is 3. Electronegativity of boron is 2. Sorry. So halogen is having higher electronegativity than boron. Okay. Now this has higher electronegativity, so it is pulling this bond pair towards itself with more tendency than chlorine. Because of this halogen, this boron is getting higher electron deficiency. Because of halogen, this boron is getting higher electron deficiency. Already it is electron deficient because this valence shell contains 6 electrons. Another thing is halogen is having higher electronegativity. Therefore, halogen pulls the electron cloud to more extent. Because of halogen, here electron deficiency getting increased. Now, fluorine is having higher electronegativity than chlorine. Therefore, here electron deficiency will be more when compared to this. Here electron deficiency is more means it will have higher tendency to accept electron pair. Therefore, this acidic strength will be more when compared to this. It is with respect to electronegativity. But experimental analysis is against this. Therefore, using electronegativity of halogens, we are unable to explain the experimental fact. So we cannot take electronegativity for explaining the experimental fact of acidic strength. Sorry. We will take some other factor. Now boron comes under second period. So this valence shell contains a second shell. This valence shell second shell contains 4 orbitals. Out of 4 orbitals, 3 orbitals have gone for bonding. Remaining 1 orbital is there. That orbital is vacant. So it is having vacant orbital. That vacant orbital is what means 2p. It is having vacant orbital, that is 2p orbital, because it is coming under second period. Fluorine valence shell contains 7 electrons because 7th A group. Out of 7 electrons, 1 electron is in bonding with the boron with the sigma 1. Now fluorine is having lone pairs. 3 lone pairs are there. So in the fluorine, 3 lone pairs are there. This lone pair present in 2p orbital. So we will take BF. BF we are taking. In the BF, this fluorine is having 2p orbital containing lone pair. This boron containing 2p orbital which is vacant. Now see, this is 2p orbital, it is also 2p orbital. Both are same cell, same shell and the same orbital. Now boron is having 6 electrons in the valence shell. Fluorine is having 8 electrons in the valence shell. 3 lone pairs and 1 bond pair. Therefore 8 electrons in the valence shell. To get octet, this boron is making dative bond with this fluorine. How that dative bond is there means, like this dative bond will be there. This is called back bonding. That means fluorine is contributing lone pair Boron is contributing vacant orbital. Between them, lateral overlapping takes place. So pi bond is possible. This is called back bonding. Okay. So here what we can say in the sense, between boron and fluorine, back bonding is possible. Therefore, in BF3, so in BF3, what we can say in the sense, back bonding is there. So back bonding is there like this. So now boron valence shell contains 4 bonds. Therefore, we can say octet configuration we can say. Fluorine is having 2 lone pairs and 2 bond pairs. Therefore, this valence shell also has 8 electrons. Okay. Next, BCl3 we will see. In this, boron is having vacant orbital, that is 2p orbital, we know 2p orbital. Then regarding chlorine we will see, chlorine is having 3 lone pairs. This lone pair present in 3p orbital because chlorine comes under third period. Third period means valence shell is third shell. That means outermost shell is third shell. So 3p is having lone pair. Now boron is having electron deficiency. Chlorine is having octet. Chlorine is having octet configuration. Chlorine is having octet configuration. Boron is having electron deficiency. So boron is providing vacant 2p orbital. Vacant 2p orbital it is providing. Chlorine is providing lone pair in 3p orbital. So between them, lateral overlapping is possible. So dative bond is possible. So in BCl3, in boron trichloride, between boron and chlorine, dative bond is possible. Due to dative bonding, boron valence shell contains 4 bonds, therefore 8 electrons. Chlorine valence shell contains 2 lone pairs and 2 bond pairs, therefore 8 electrons. Chlorine valence shell also has 8 electrons. Boron valence shell is having 8 electrons. Boron is octet, here boron also octet. Sorry. Now, we have to explain acidic strength, we have to explain. When Lewis base comes and donates, contributes electron pair, this bond pair is migrating, therefore it is accepting electron pair from Lewis base, therefore it is Lewis acid. BF3 is Lewis acid. When Lewis base contributing electron pair to this boron, this bond pair is shifting to Cl, therefore this boron is accepting electron pair, therefore this boron is electron deficient, that means Lewis acid we can say. So BF3 is Lewis acid, BCl3 also Lewis acid. Now experiment says acidic strength increases. Acidic strength increases. That means BF3 acidic strength is low, BCl3 acidic strength is high. So that means here we can say this boron is accepting electron pair with less tendency. This boron is accepting electron pair with less tendency. That means here electron deficiency is less. For this acidic strength is more when compared to BF3. That means it is accepting electron pair with more tendency. That means here electron deficiency is more. Why is it so? Here see 2p undergoing overlapping. So extent of overlapping is more. So strength of bond is more. Here 3p orbital, 2p orbital, different shells. So extent of overlapping is less. Strength is less. Therefore, we can conclude that here strength of bond is less extent. Here strength of bond is more. Therefore, this boron is receiving electron cloud from Cl to less tendency. This boron is receiving electron cloud from this fluorine with more extent. So that it is more electron deficient, it is less electron deficient we can say. So this boron is less electron deficient. This boron is more electron deficient. More electron deficient. Why this boron is less electron deficient? Because 2p overlapping, it is getting a more extent of this bonding. The strength of this bond is more. Here 3p 2p is overlapping, different shells, therefore overlapping extent will be low, therefore strength of bond will be low, therefore this boron is a more electron deficient. Since it is less electron deficient, it has this boron is having less tendency to accept electron pair from Lewis base, therefore this acidic strength is less. Since it is more electron deficient, this boron is a more tendency to accept electron pair from Lewis base, therefore it is having higher Lewis acidic strength. Therefore the acidic strength increases like this. Therefore how to say this acidic strength, how to explain this acidic strength in the sense, now BF3, BCl3, BBr3, Bi3. Now we can say, if we go like this, extent of back bonding decreases. Extent of back bonding decreases, we can say. Therefore, electron deficiency of boron getting increases. Therefore, acidic strength increases, we can say. Therefore, explain acidic strength of boron trihalides using back bonding, not with the electronegativity of halogens. Don't use electronegativity of halogens. Why we should not use electronegativity of halogens means, see that explanation means we can give in any way, but which is correct in the sense observation only is correct, experiment only is correct. So what experimental analysis, what observation says, first we have to see that. For the experimental fact, what is a suitable explanation, that only we have to give. Okay, therefore don't consider your electronegativity, consider back bonding and explain this. Okay, next we will go for uses of boron and its compounds. Now we will take boron fibers we are taking. This boron fibers are used in making bulletproof vest. It is used in making bulletproof vest. Boron fibers are used in making bulletproof vest. Then this boron is giving light composite material. Boron is giving light composite material. It is used for making aircraft parts. Next we will take metal borides. We will take. These metal borides are used as protective shield. Metal borides are used for preparing protective shield. Then metal borides, in that we will take boron is 10 isotope, B10 isotope. Metal borides we are taking, in that boron is a B10 isotope. That is used as what in the sense? Control rods in nuclear reactors. In nuclear reactors we are using this as a control rods. Okay, so in nuclear reactors we are using. What is a control rod in nuclear reactor? In the sense, what is the reaction takes place in the nuclear reactor, that we will see. We will take a uranium fuel in the nuclear reactor. We will bombard this one using neutron. This neutron is bombarding on uranium, then uranium undergoes nuclear fission. Due to that, during nuclear fission, some neutrons are ejected. Average 2.5 neutrons are ejected. 2 neutrons or 3 neutrons like this will be ejected. So average 2.5 neutrons will be ejected, we will say. Now this B10 isotope we are using. That B10 isotope is absorbing this neutron. Out of 3 neutrons, 2 neutrons are absorbed. Only 1 neutron is left. This neutron is going for bombarding with the uranium. It will undergo nuclear fission and ejects some more neutrons. Out of 3 neutrons, 2 neutrons are absorbed by B10 isotope. Remaining 1 neutron is not absorbed. It is going for bombarding with the uranium and process continues. Now see that here 1 neutron is bombarded, here 1 neutron is bombarded, here also 1 neutron is bombarded. That means constant nuclear fission takes place. Constant nuclear fission takes place. Controlled nuclear fission takes place. In order to make controlled nuclear fission only, this B10 isotope is used in the nuclear reactor, because controlled nuclear fission will give constant energy liberation. Otherwise, it will become like an atom bomb. So that in order to make constant controlled nuclear fission, this B10 isotope is used that absorbs that excess neutrons. Okay, so this B10 isotope is used in the form of metal boride as control rods in nuclear reactors. This B10 isotope absorbs excess of neutrons. Because of this B10, the nuclear reaction takes place. Controlled nuclear reaction, constant nuclear reaction takes place, nuclear fission takes place. Next we will see borax and boric acid is used in the manufacture of heat resistant glasses, Pyrex glasses. Next we are saying that Pyrex glasses. In this one, what is there means what we are using in the manufacture of this one means borax we are using and boric acid we are using. Then for preparing glass wool, this borax and boric acid is used. Then for preparing fiberglass, borax or boric acid is used. Then this borax is used as a flux for soldering metals. This borax is used as a flux for soldering metals, we can say. Next, borax is used for coating earthenwares. Because of this one, because of coating of borax, it is protected from heat. It is protected from scratch. It is protected from stains. Next, borax is used in soap manufacture, which is medicinal soaps. For preparing medicinal soaps, borax is used. Then why we have to use borax in the medicinal soaps? In the sense, this borax undergoes hydrolysis and gives orthoboric acid. This orthoboric acid is a mild antiseptic. Therefore mild antiseptic. So in the medicinal soap we are using borax, which undergoes hydrolysis to give orthoboric acid. That the orthoboric acid is used as application of mild antiseptic nature. Therefore, okay. Next we will go for aluminium. We will see ores of aluminium. We will see. We are going for ores of aluminium. Ores of aluminium. One is corundum. That formula is Al2O3. Diaspore formula Al2O3.H2O. Next, bauxite. Al2O3.2H2O. Al2O3.2H2. Next gibbsite, Al2O3.3H2O, gibbsite Al2O3.3H2. Next cryolite, Na3AlF6, Na3AlF6. Next feldspar, formula KAlSi3O8, KAlSi3O8. Its formula, it is having potassium oxide, aluminum oxide, and 6 times SiO2. It is feldspar. So now, how to extract aluminum from bauxite ore, that we will see. How to extract aluminum from bauxite ore, that point we will see. Now bauxite ore contains what we will see. Now we are taking bauxite ore. Using bauxite ore, we have to extract aluminum. From bauxite ore, we have to extract aluminum. Now bauxite ore contains what are the substances, that we will see. Bauxite ore contains mainly aluminum oxide, Al2O3, and impurities, and it is having impurities. What are the impurities present in this one? In the sense, one is silica, SiO2, then ferrous oxide, FeO, ferric oxide, Fe2O3, titanium dioxide, TiO2, and etc. These are the metal oxides. These are the oxides present as impurities in the bauxite ore. Now, we have to remove these impurities. Then we have to get aluminum from this alumina. How to remove impurities? For that, we will go for concentration. Concentration, another name beneficiation. That concentration contains 4 methods. One is hydraulic washing, next magnetic separation, next froth flotation, next leaching. Now this bauxite ore comes under which type of concentration? That is leaching. That means chemical method. By chemical method, we are purifying this bauxite ore. So by chemical method, we are purifying this bauxite ore. So which chemical method we are taking? In the sense, 3 processes are there: Bayer's process, Hall's process, Surfax process. 3 processes are there. All the 3 processes are used for concentrating bauxite ore, purifying bauxite ore. In that we will see Bayer's process. We will see. Now we will take Bayer's process. We will take. In this Bayer's process, how we are purifying this bauxite ore, that we will see. First, bauxite ore is roasted. Roasting, that means like frying. First, bauxite ore is roasted, while this ferrous oxide is converted into ferric oxide. Okay, so bauxite ore is roasted. On roasting, this ferrous oxide is converting into ferric oxide. Ferrous oxide has converted into ferric oxide. Then the roasted ore is treated with concentrated solution of sodium hydroxide at 473 Kelvin to 523 Kelvin. And what is the pressure provided? 35 to 36 bar pressure is provided. So we are taking a now roasted ore. Roasted ore we are taking. To this we are adding concentrated solution of sodium hydroxide. We are providing temperature. How much means 473 to 523 Kelvin temperature we are providing. Then what pressure is provided means 35 to 36 bar pressure is provided. This much pressure is provided. So what happens under this condition? Under this condition, alumina reacts with the sodium hydroxide and becomes salt, oxysalt, and goes to solution. Okay. This alumina is amphoteric Therefore, it is reacting with the sodium hydroxide and becomes oxysalt and goes to solution. Next, SiO2 is acidic oxide. Therefore, it is reacting with the sodium hydroxide solution and becomes oxysalt and goes to solution. Then Fe2O3. Fe2O3 is not reacting with the sodium hydroxide solution. Fe2O3 is not reacting with the sodium hydroxide solution, remain as a residue. TiO2 is not reacting with the sodium hydroxide solution, remain as residue. So which and all reacting means? One is alumina, Al2O3 reacting with the sodium hydroxide. It is acid base reaction. Sodium hydroxide is a base, Al2O3 is acid. Reacting to give salt, that salt is oxysalt. Oxysalt formula NaAlO2. Oxysalt is formed. This oxysalt is soluble in water, therefore it goes to solution. Let us balance this equation. Here aluminum is 2 times, okay, sodium is 2 times, okay, oxygen is 5 oxygen is there, here 4, here 1, okay. Next, SiO2 is reacting with the sodium hydroxide. SiO2 is acid, sodium hydroxide is base. We are getting oxysalt. Oxysalt is Na2SiO3 and water. Okay, sodium I will keep like this. It is balanced. Okay. Now, sodium silicate is soluble in water, therefore it goes to solution. Ferric oxide is insoluble and not reacting with sodium hydroxide. Titanium dioxide is not reacting with the sodium hydroxide and also insoluble. Now go for filtration. We can remove ferric oxide and titanium dioxide in the resultant solution. In the filtrate, what will be there means NaLO2 will be there, NaLO2 and Na2SiO3 will be there. Na2SiO3 will be there in the aqueous solution. So in the aqueous solution, sodium metaaluminate is present and the sodium silicate is present. Okay. Fe2O3 and TiO2 are removed as a residue. They are insoluble, therefore they are solid, so we can remove that by filtration. Okay. Now resultant solution is having this one. Now what we have to do? We have to remove this silicon. We want only aluminum. Therefore, what we are doing means, to this solution we are adding a small quantity of, a little quantity of seeding agent we are adding. Little quantity of seeding agent we are adding. What is the seeding agent here? Seeding agent is a hydrated alumina. Hydrated alumina is acting as seeding agent. So seeding agent in the sense a little quantity we will add. Okay, seed we will add means only one seed will give one plant, like that. So seeding agent means a little substance, little Al2O3 XH2O we are adding. Hydrated alumina is the seeding agent, little amount we are adding. In the presence of this, what happens? That we will see. Here, this aluminum is Al3 plus. It undergoes hydrolysis. It undergoes hydrolysis and becomes what in the sense Al2O3 dot XH2. This seeding agent is attracting this. So due to attraction, it is going and combining with this. Therefore, this size increases. Next, aluminum ion undergoes hydrolysis and gives hydrated alumina, that is attracted by this. This size is getting raised. Like this process continues. This size goes on increasing. At one stage, this size is such that it is precipitating. Therefore, here coagulation takes place. Therefore, it is coagulating agent. So what happens means, this aluminum is undergoing hydrolysis and becomes hydrated alumina. The seeding agent precipitates this hydrated alumina. Therefore, this aluminum undergoes hydrolysis, and also in the presence of seeding agent, aluminum completely become Al2O3 dot XH2O precipitated, whereas sodium silicate remain in the solution. So by filtration, we can remove sodium silicate, we can take alumina. So we have got hydrated alumina. We got this hydrated alumina is washed thoroughly with water, then it is dried and it is heated. It is giving Al2O3 and XH2. XH2 will be separated. Water is separated. We are getting only Al2O3. We got what? Alumina in the sense pure alumina we got. This process is called a Bayer's process. This process is called Bayer's process. It is a chemical method. Now we have taken in this place impure alumina we have taken. Here we have taken impure alumina. By this chemical method we got pure alumina we got. Therefore this method is called concentration. In the concentration, which type means leaching. This method name is what means it is coming under leaching method. So pure alumina we got. Okay. Next, how to convert pure alumina into crude aluminum metal we will see. Then we will go for purification. So we got pure alumina now. This pure alumina let us convert into crude aluminum. Crude aluminum in the sense it is having impurities. Then we will see how to purify this one, that we'll see. Okay, so now we are going for pure alumina into crude aluminum metal. Okay, that means we are removing oxygen. So how to do this one in the sense by electrolysis we can do. That electrolysis method name is Hall-Heroult process. Hall-Heroult process. Hall-Heroult process. Hall-Heroult process. Here we will take a electrolytic vessel. Electrolytic cell. That electrolytic cell is what in the sense ion tank. So we are taking a electrolytic cell. This electrolytic cell is what means ion tank. This ion tank acts as electrolytic cell. Okay, we have taken electrolytic cell. We have taken. Next, we will take cathode. This cathode is what in the sense carbon acts as cathode. Which carbon in the sense that carbon will is coated into this one ion tank. Here carbon coating. Here we are giving carbon coating, like this carbon coating. This carbon coating acts as a cathode. This carbon coating acts as cathode. This carbon coating mainly is given in which place in the sense at the bottom, not at the sides. So carbon coating we are giving mainly at the bottom, not at the sides. So this carbon coating is acting as a cathode. Then we will dip carbon rods. This carbon rods acting as what in the sense anode. This carbon rods acting as anode. Then we will take electrolyte. What is the electrolyte means? This pure alumina we are taking, that is molten Al2O3 act as electrolyte. Molten Al2O3 is acting as electrolyte here. Okay. Molten Al2O3 we have taken as electrolyte. Okay. Then in order to decrease this melting point, we are adding some substances. What is that substance means? Fluorspar. CaF2 we are adding. It is called fluorspar. Then we are adding cryolite. Cryolite formula is Na3AlF6. We are adding cryolite. We are adding fluorspar and cryolite into molten Al2O3 in order to reduce this melting point. Then this molten Al2O3 is a bad conductor of electricity. Therefore, in order to raise this conductivity, this cryolite and fluorspar is used. So that cryolite and fluorspar is used for raising this conductivity and reducing this melting point. Sorry. Next, how the electrolytic process takes place here, that we will see. We have taken cryolite. That cryolite is a double salt. That is mixture of two simple salts. What are those? One is NaF, another one is AlF3. Another one is AlF3. So Na3AlF6 contains NAF and AlF3. Sorry. This AlF3 is having higher ionic nature, therefore it